Hey, just wanted to make a quick recording explaining some of the CSS questions that people have been asking. Yeah, so let's just get started. Let me share my screen. And here we go. Hide this thing. Okay, so basically, people have been asking about CSS. So I just wanted to do a quick walkthrough of CSS. So first of all, again, W3 Schools is a site that you guys have been using to learn this. So if you go to W3 Schools and go to tutorials and CSS, you'll see there's a tutorial on CSS. So make sure you go through and do that if you haven't already. Just click through and actually, try the examples out. And then when it comes to coding, they have interactive code pieces you can do. Like here's an example. You can click on try it yourself. You can go ahead and make changes and see the results here. I don't want to do that right now. So let me just show you. If I go to the tutorial for CSS, and then I look at how to, it tells me how to add the CSS. So there's 3 different ways. So CSS stands for cascading style sheets, and that means they cascade. There's an order that they can be used in. So, and there's an order of precedence. So there's 3 different levels. One is you have an external CSS file, some file with some name .css. Again, everything on the web, make sure there's no spaces. So you could say like styles.css, for example. And then you can put your CSS code in there, and then you can reference it from multiple web pages. So you can have a link in the web page that says use this CSS page, and you can have your styles defined there. The second level is at the HTML level, at the page level. So you can have CSS styles defined for a web page, and you can list like H1 will look like this, H2 will look like this, or whatever tags you want to define. And then the third level is inline. So you can have a specific tag that you can style. And the precedence is inline takes precedence. So you can have all 3 of those things in place at the same time. So you could have a file that you're referring to, and the link color is defined there. Hyperlink color is defined there. And then you can have it defined a second way at the page level, and that page level will override the external file. And then for a specific link, you could have a third style that overrides that, and that will have the highest precedence. Okay, so let me just cut to the chase and show you what I'm talking about. So here I have a web page and a style page already made out. So I'm just going to open this web page. I can use my mouse and open it in a text editor. Okay, and let's look what this looks like. And see if I can zoom my screen in at all. Yes, I can. Great. Okay, so I have my basic tags, HTML. I have my head, closing head, body, closing body, right? Closing head, closing HTML. So in this particular example, I have a link defined in the head. It says link href style.css. So this is the path to the style sheet. There's no folder, there's no like, nothing like this, okay? So if I had this, then I would expect a folder named CSS and then a file named CSS styles.css. I don't have that, right? I just have styles.css. So first of all, let me look at what the web page looks like. So I can open it in a web browser, okay? And this is what the web page looks like. I have some examples in here. And if I want to inspect this or any other web page, like suppose I went to apple.com, and I showed this in the lecture notes too, but if I'm at any website and I want to know, wow, how do they do this? Like, let me go to, for example, the iPhone product page, and I can see like some interactive stuff, okay? So this page is responsive, which we see in the next unit, the responsive web page. So I can grab this. Okay, it's not working. Yeah, so if I resize this page, first of all, I'll see things change in the page. So the images swap out with different images, the layout changes, the fonts change, the sizes change, everything changes, okay? So now I'm at like a tablet size, now I'm at a smartphone size here. So the layout's very different. If I switch to a little bit wider, the layout's different. And I switch a little bit wider, it's a little bit different. Now, if I want to know how did they do all this, I want to inspect that, okay? I can view the source, okay? Depending on your web browser, it varies. Chrome has its own tools and own ways of doing things, and Safari has its own way of doing things. But I'm in Safari, so I can hit Inspect Element and look at any particular thing in the web page and how do they do that. So if I want to see what's the code behind this button, I can right-click on it and say Inspect Element. And it'll highlight the specific code for that right here, okay? And then if I move my mouse over other code, it'll show me what that is in the web page. So that's one way to see how things are done. I can also view source. So if I just go to right-click and view source of this page, show page source, okay? I can see all the source code for this page, and I can go through and look at how do they do things. And I can see here, here's HTML tag, here's the head tag, and here's some link tag, here's another link, okay, and so on. I can probably find, oh, look, here's a reference for a CSS page. And I can look at how did they define their CSS and what kind of styles are they using and so on. Now, this is probably a bit of a complex example, so I just leave that alone for now, but that gives you an idea how you can look at stuff online and figure out how stuff is done. Okay, so for this page, I want to see how is this done. I can just, again, do inspect element or view source, and I can see all the code and what's going on there. Okay, and I can also open it again in a text editor and make changes. So I have this link to embed an external CSS page, which is one of the ways of using CSS. So if I look at other file I have here, I also have a file called styles.css. So let me open that. Okay, and here I have defined h1 and then something with a pound sign and something with a dot. Okay, and it's really important to understand the difference between different types of CSS selectors. So CSS can be used to redefine the look and feel of any existing HTML tag. So any tag that exists, pretty much, like h1, h2, p, a, whatever the tag is. And again, all the tags you can find in this reference, right? If you go to W3 Schools website in HTML, there should be a reference, your references, an HTML tag reference. You'll find all the different HTML tags here. You can search on things, like if I want to know how to make a link, okay, or how to make a hyperlink, maybe not, but okay. You can search, I guess just, the search is not that great, but you can search the tag name, part of the tag name, and find those tags. So you can see there's so many tags, get familiar with them, and you can refer back to this, okay? So most of these tags you can style with CSS and change the default look and feel for it, okay? So here I've redefined how h1 should look. So according to this, any h1 tag I use in my web page should be red and use the font Helvetica. Now, if the user's computer, the person who's looking at my web page, doesn't have Helvetica font installed on their machine, on their computer, then they won't see Helvetica. So I can provide a list of fonts. So I said, use Helvetica, and if they don't have Helvetica, then show it as sans, okay? Now, if they don't have Helvetica and they don't have sans, then the web browser on their computer will default to whatever default is on their computer, okay, for that web browser. So the computer has its own defaults and the web browser has its own defaults, depending on what web browser it is and what platform it is. If it's Windows or Mac or whatever, it can vary, okay? So I've redefined how h1 should look. So let me look at my web page here, and I see that this tag h1, let me just look at the actual stuff. Okay, so is there any h1s here? Yes. Here's h1, and then so this I should look like it's red. Okay, so here I see h1 is red, and h2 is not red because it's a different tag, and I didn't put any style for there. So if I wanted to change that and put in here another one, let me just copy this and add another style for h2. and say the color should be green. And you can use hexadecimal or other values. You don't have to use words. Okay, I'll save this, and I'll go to my web page and just hit refresh, and I can see it changes and updates instantly. Okay, so now I have H1 is styled one way, H2 is styled another way. Okay, now I have this thing with a pound sign, and then I set sample ID. And if I look at where am I using that in my code, I can see I have an ID here. So I have an ID attribute for this p tag, and I gave it the name sample ID. So ID is what it sounds like. An ID should be unique. So you should never use the same ID more than once in a given web page. So why would you use that? Like, why would I have an ID defined with a pound sign, okay, or something defined with a pound sign in my CSS that can only use it one place in the entire web page? Well, that's a good way to identify something unique. So suppose I had a banner that's going to be across every page of my website, and I want to style it a certain way, and that style should only apply to that banner. So one way I could do that is give that banner an ID. I could call it navigation banner, or whatever I wanted to give some meaningful name to that thing. And then, since this is an external style sheet, all the web pages in my website could point to the style sheet, and then I could use this ID tag to style that banner a certain way. Okay. So anyway, that's what an ID is. So where you use that is in the tag, you put ID. Okay. So another thing I can do is use what's called a class selector. And the way you do that is with a dot. Okay. So the difference, these are the ones you're going to use the most: the class selector and just redefining regular HTML tags. So notice the difference. With an HTML tag, you don't put a dot or a pound sign. You just write the name of the tag, open and close braces, and then your definitions inside, whatever you want to style you want to give. Okay. With an ID, use a pound sign. And with a class, use a dot, and then any made up word that you want. Okay. So like, for example, I put sample class here just to be clear that this is a sample. And then I gave it a color, and I gave it an alignment for the text. So in my web page, I can see I have a style here that I'm using for this p tag. Okay. And also, do I use this anywhere else? Actually, no, this is the wrong style. Am I using this anywhere? This is called sample class. Am I using this anywhere? Yeah, right here. So here I have the class attribute is equal to, and then sample class. And then I say, here's a p with text with a class. So if I look at my web page for that text, here's some p text with a class. So it's right aligned. And what's the color that I defined for it? I said the color is this hexadecimal code, okay? So this color is what this looks like, okay? So it's not quite red, it's some shade of red. So that's how you use class. So I can apply this class many places. I could do, for example, for the H2, let me also give it class equals sample class. Save this and refresh my web page, and I see now that my H2 text has been styled accordingly. Okay. Now, what else? Oh, so then another level I said was that you can put styles within the tag inline. So this is referring to an external style sheet, and this style, okay, P. Now let me look at in my style sheet. I have given no style for P. So let's say all P tags. So P, open close brace, okay? And I'm going to say all P tags should have a color of magenta. Nope, doesn't work. How about blue? We haven't used blue yet, okay? So now let me just refresh this page. I can see that text that is just wrapped with a regular P tag is all blue, okay? Maybe that's a bad example because my inline one is also blue. So let me try making this green. Okay, so now if I save this and go here and reload, I can see this P is green, but this P is blue. And why is that? Because all P tags in this web page are blue, okay? Because the default with the external style sheet was to be blue, right? That's defined here. All P tags will be blue. But then I overrode that inline. I said P style color equals green, okay? So this particular text is going to be green, which we see here at the bottom, okay? So hopefully that makes it clear. The one other level, again, was at the page level. And again, if you want to know how to do that, you can just go to CSS and how to, and there's an example here, you should look at it. So this shows the external style sheet. This shows internal. So here's the web page they define, and then they have the body, and then they have inside of the body. So this is all inside of, this is inside of the head. Okay, so inside of the head of the web page, they define their styles. They define one for body, they define one for H1, and so on, whatever you want to define. So all that goes inside of the head, inside of a pair of tags called style. Okay, so style and close style. So hopefully that makes things clear. If you have any questions, just ping me in the Slack. And I will stop this recording.